On this video, we will review over graphing, coordinates, and the various structures found on a typical graph. Now, I do want to remind you that our horizontal line represents our x-axis and our vertical line represents our y-axis. Also, where the x and the y-axis meet is the origin, and it has a 0, 0 point. Now, when we look at our points, what we have to remember is that each graph will have a different scale for it. This particular graph, we're going to use each line to represent 1. Now, also, our graphs will have units associated with them, and so you would want to be sure and include what the units are for the graph. With that said, we always put our x component first and our y component second. So if we were to look at this right here, here is 0, we're going -1, -2. So our first point on this graph would be -2. From here, we go up 1. So the coordinates for this point right there would be -2, 1. If we were to look at this point, you'll notice that we moved over 2, and then we moved up 1, 2, 3. So the coordinates would be 2, 3. Now here I have an additional graph, and we're looking at graphing points A through F, and you'll notice that we have the points labeled out for you, and I just put this here for you to go through and check and make sure that you understood why A was 3, 3 on its graphing point, and then why E would have been 0, just so that you would understand how we got those numbers associated with those points. Well, here's a chance for you to look at the coordinates for these points. And so I have these A through H, and so what we would want you to do is just to go through and see if you can identify the coordinates, and then the answers are over to the left, and you can spot check and make sure you understand. Now remember that this area right here is 0, and so if we move over, we have 1, 2, so our first coordinate should be 2. We are not moving up or down, so our second coordinate should be 0. So the coordinate for this particular point on this graph would be 2, 0, and we can see that answer right here. When we look at B, we are not moving over, so our first coordinate would be 0. We are moving up 2, and so the coordinate for B would be 0, 2. And I have given you some additional points for you to check and ensure that you understand graphing coordinates for a typical graph. Do remember, as always, if you have any questions concerning the video or any of the information on the video, by all means feel free to come by my office and we'll check and review over wherever you have difficulty.